Welcome into week 2 of the formal. We've got a big day to preview. Let's get through what's coming up on the show. We've got a Taupo preview with Brendan Popplewell. Pip Morris is on the Whanganui Greyhounds. Andrew Scott Dragon Leap update. Andrew Forsman talks us through his runners at Taupo and also his stable stars, including Agon and the Chosen One. As well as that, most important part of the show, we'll get you the best bets. Let's kick off the form, and Brendan Popplewell joins us for a Gallops preview this afternoon. Brendan, we've got Taupo, of course, another really big day of racing, but the weather is going to play a part.
It certainly will. It's going to be a tricky day with the track conditions and the amount of rain that has fallen there, but we'll try and land with a couple that will, fingers crossed, get through the conditions anyway. And in race number 3, I've gone with my best bet in this race by the name of a horse by Te Toki. Now, this is a horse that's won 2 trials and has also been an unlucky 4th on slow ground out of Te Araha. Most recent trial was here at this venue, sat on speed, showed good natural speed to position up outside leader, and both this horse and a horse by the name of Legion ran away and dead heated that trial, and there was 7.5 lengths back to third. He was a runner that wasn't really pressured in that trial, the son of Tarzino, and I just like what I've seen in all of his trials. There would be a threat in the race. I would say it would be around the John Barry trained runner Polar Blast. He trialled up most recently out of Foxton, was working home nicely, and he's had one race day start where he was defeated behind Bella Conte over 800 metres. So Te Toki, my best bet, and Polar Blast certainly a watch with what he's done through race day and trials.
And I understand your value bet, Brendan, comes up in race number 5.
Yes, Octavio, start number 68 for this horse, and when he finds himself in a 65 grade, he's always competitive. Now, he's been in this grade the last couple of starts, and he's run honestly out of Cambridge when finishing 4th and 3rd respectively. Good run last week and behind Fonts Delagar, I thought, when running into 3rd position. So he's always going to give you a sight. Now, he's got a draw. Bailey Rogerson is aboard. He can naturally plant himself there, and he goes through every track condition possible through the all-weather right up to a heavy track condition, and he's raced well here at this venue. So it's just great for that sort of 2 over 3 bet and include in your multiples Octavio in race number 5.
Great stuff. Looking forward to Taupo this afternoon. And obviously, we can't let you go without talking about that massive meeting on Saturday, of course, the Foxbridge Plate meeting. And it really has changed complexion, hasn't it, following that result, heading towards that first Group 1, the Tarzino?
Yeah, and great, I think, for the race, the Tarzino, that we've seen. You know, we've seen some horses now come out of that race, the likes of Gino Severini, who produced the best sectionals from back in the field to flash home into second position. Prix de Feu, who was always in the thoughts of running an honest race and being a chance through the Hawke's Bay Carnival, has run 3rd. And then Harlech and Ocean Billy, they now become chances. Now, those horses, the likes of Gino Severini, was 100 to 1 to win the Tarzino, now $10. Ocean Billy and Harlech were all at big prices. So it just opens the race up, and instead of maybe zeroing in on just Avantage and Tabby Mac and then the inclusion of Catalyst and Dragon Leap, we now have an expanding number of options in this race now for the Tarzino, which is so good for the race, the first Group 1. A lot to take around the Foxbridge. Obviously, Avantage getting flushed and caught 3 wide, and Mascarpone holding his spot in that 1-by-1 position. That was a real important part of that race, and it defined, a couple of chances. Mascarpone getting the right run and Avantage being kept out wide. And look, Tabby Mac, not running his best race. He's finished. He was right on behind speed, and he's gone down to the rail, and he's actually finished behind Avantage. So we're looking for better runs from them in the Tarzino, and I don't think you want to be just dropping them because of that. You want to play at the forgive card on those horses because of what we've seen from them in the past, but it just adds a bit more flavour and value to the race now with what we've seen from some of those horses at bigger prices leading into the big one next week.
And of course, those horses we've already seen, we've got an assessment on them, but there's a couple that we haven't seen that have yet to step out, and we're looking forward to catching them in the Tarzino. Later on in the show, we talked to Andrew Scott about Dragon Leap, who's one of those, but Catalyst is the other one, and goodness me, if he could come back as good as he was as a 3-year-old, that could add some excitement to the event.
Fingers crossed, and maybe he was the winner of it all after what we saw on the weekend with those horses that were at the top end of the market failing in the Foxbridge Plate. He had a trial the day before the Foxbridge at Cambridge, and he's trialled up super. And looking through his trials and how he's gone, look, he didn't like the track at Te Rapa, obviously, and maybe the conditions of the track there, and He just didn't hit out. So when we saw him 2 trials ago, but he sat in a nice position in that Cambridge trial. I like how he's let down. So you can understand why he is now right at the top of that market with Avantage to say he can win the race. We're talking, of course, a week out from the race, and so important now is going to be barrier draws, which makes it hard to bet into this market now with where things sit. I think if Dragon Leap can draw as well, he becomes a chance. Again, he's fresh up into the race, but his trials have been quiet and Catalyst too. So hard market to bet into, but I think the barrier draws could be the real sole crunch point around this race in terms of having a bet in the Tarzino. So maybe just hold off on those future markets until we see what happens next Wednesday.
Yeah, exciting stuff. And of course, so we have the breeders, so for the 3-year-olds as well on that card. And we saw some pretty exciting 3-year-olds stepping out. Imperatriz was successful, keeping that unbeaten record, Brendan.
She was terrific, wasn't she? And look, she wasn't exactly 100% before getting out at the start, was she? She was a horse who wanted to play up, and things weren't panning out, I'm sure, like favourite punters were hoping to see before the start of a race around $1.40, $1.50 favourite. But she got the job done, and she's a horse that looked very good through her 2-year-old season. She was able to win an Eclipse Stakes. She looked ready to go off her trials. What you would have to say out of this race is the second horse is a runner that we're going to talk a lot about, and then I Wish I Win also. He's been grabbed late by the very good filly, who might have been just a touch more ready than him. But what we've seen from those 2 horses, they'll take different paths now, because I Wish I Win the 3-year-old gelding compared to the 3-year-old filly of Imperatriz. They're both horses that look to be heading in the right direction, and boy, I think we're very excited with their prospects going forward now. So, yeah, I thought maybe the other horse to take out of that race too, Emily, was Doubtful Sound, a horse who went back and finished on into 4th position. I wouldn't be completely dropping him on that. He was a horse that we actually went stone cold at the market, so maybe that was expected, that type of run from him. So I'd still be keeping the faith around him and looking forward to his progress as he carries on as a 3-0 from the Pike Barn.
Mouth-watering stuff coming up over the next couple of months with regards to seeing these horses pushing forward. Brendan, awesome stuff. Good luck this afternoon with your bets at Taupo, and no doubt we'll be catching up with you in the next couple of days.
Too right, no problems. Thanks, Emily.
Welcome in Central District's greyhound expert, Pip Morris, who's currently stuck under level 4 conditions in Auckland, but great to get your insight anyway, Pip. Tell me about this afternoon's meeting at Whanganui. It's a big one, isn't it?
Look, it certainly is. 15 race program, Emily, so looking forward to the action for the low graders this time back at Hattrick Raceway. A couple of nice dogs on the card too that I think will be short, but you can certainly multi them up. And race number 1 at 12:04, Mr. Fahrenheit, really good winner on Monday at the Manawatu. Think he should be winning again. And Be Lucky Banjo, a dog that Rosso was really keen on last Wednesday. Of course, the meeting didn't get off the ground, but this time comes up with box number 1 in a race number 6, and I think a dog you'll be wanting to put through multis.
Well, let's pick your brain and get your best and value. First of all, what's your top pick on the card?
Come up with a big time Quinn. Look, I made her the best bet on Friday night. She didn't quite pull it off. She got second, but she's come up with box number 2 in a similar field, think possibly even slightly weaker. So I think if she can jump like she did on Friday night, Emily, I think she can go one better.
And what about a value, something that we can perhaps make a little bit of money out of?
Yeah, I've gone for 1 in race number 12. Technically, it's on the second program, meeting code number 9, race number 2 for Rapid Renegade. Comes up with box number 8. Look, she's been a little bit luckless in her runs. She's a dog that likes to use up the track a little bit and run wide. So I thought box 8 would be perfect for her, and she should be paying the price.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for your insight, Pip, and no doubt we'll be catching up with you later in the week.
Sounds good.
Andrew Scott has very kindly joined us on the show this morning. And Andrew, I really feel like the anticipation's building because we're getting closer and closer to seeing Dragon Leap step out at the races. Tell me, how's it all going?
Yeah, look, it's been a long, slow build up. Obviously, we took him over to Brisbane, and he got a wee bit under the weather over there, and we decided to bring him home without a run. And then he's sort of had a couple of weeks off over in Brisbane, and we've brought him back and just brought him back up really quietly with the idea of obviously just running him in a fresh up. And we gave him a trial there last week, and no, everything's gone to plan thus far. So we've had a good little lead in thus far.
What's sort of the plan from here? Obviously, as you said, you have that trial on the synthetic on the 3rd of September. Is it just to go straight to the Hawke's Bay races now?
Yeah, absolutely, Emily. Look, he's been a horse that's probably been pretty lightly raced, and he's pretty light frame, long horse that doesn't take a power of work and racing to get to race day fitness to where we want him. But obviously with the trial last week, that brought him on a lot. It was a very quiet trial, and we're just hoping with a wee leg stretch there this coming Saturday, and then again on Tuesday prior to the race, hopefully we've got him somewhere near good race day fitness, good standard of race day fitness.
He was one of the most exciting horses of that 3-year-old year, wasn't he, with what he was able to do? And obviously it didn't work out in the Derby, as it doesn't for so many horses. But what do you feel like his development's been like, given the fact that he has been given so much time?
Yeah, Emily, look, he's certainly a stronger horse now. He's 5 than when he was 3. And look, unfortunately, he proved that he had high levels of ability when he was 3. And, he raced in a terrific, he had a great campaign there through summer, and he really raced well. But and obviously we took him to Sydney in the spring as an early 4-year-old, and he gave his ankle fit like a wee wrench there, and we had to bring him home after one run. And then he's been he's had pretty much a year off without a race, and you can certainly see that he is a bigger and stronger individual. And he was pretty immature at 3 when what he was doing was pretty much just on raw ability, not strength. But we certainly see a bigger and stronger. We've sort of got close to 20 kilos heavier horse, which is all muscle now, which is great. And we're just hoping that he can sprint well now. He's got a bit more muscle and strength about him.
What do you think is going to end up being his sort of optimum distance? Do you reckon it's going to be the mile or maybe even further now he's a little bit older?
Oh, well, probably one thing we found after the Derby, we looked up his pedigree on his dam side, and there was no horse that had won in his first 4 removes any further than a mile. And, and that's sort of, we've changed our direction a wee bit with him now, where, yes, probably, Emily, you're right, probably a mile is probably going to be his top distance. He ran 2,000 metres at 3 against his own age, but up against the older horses, and when you've got to be at your ultimate distance to be competitive at that really top level, we're sort of thinking a mile might stop him. So, we're going to learn a little bit more with him, because he's only had one race in 18 months, and we just really want to get some consistent racing into him so we can build a campaign and actually set some plans and get a campaign underway. So, look, we've got to, we'll find out a fair bit over the next 2 or 3 months with him.
You head towards the Tarzino, you win that, it's celebrations all round. What's the plan from there? What does the rest of the campaign look like, all being well, obviously?
Yeah, well, first things first, he's got to put in a performance down at Hastings, that gives us some confidence that he's back, and he's got to pull up from it well, soundness-wise. Just with all the time off and the ups and downs that he's had, we can't really make any real set plans, for the reason we just want to sort of take it one race at a time and build a preparation, for the reason it's just been such a long time off. And he's never been a horse that's ever been able to sort of take a lot of racing in a short period of time. He's always been very carefully looked after and had big gaps between runs, and I would imagine Lance and the team would only want to do that again. So, but we're sort of not really setting any targets or anything. We just want to, get a bit of racing back under his belt and build some really good core fitness that we can sort of hopefully work towards something through the season. It may be after Christmas, but we'll be certainly just taking it one step at a time through the early part of his career.
The Tarzino itself was obviously dominated by Avantage prior to the Foxbridge Plate, and that sort of all changed complexion now, and that must maybe add to your confidence that it has become a more open race.
We probably look at her still as one of the hardest horses to beat. She's, those really good mares that have won 5 Group 1s, or how many of them she's won, she will still improve with the race. And I don't think any other horse would have done any better with her running the race. So, with a nice little run there at Hastings, she's going to still be the favourite and be hard to beat. So, yeah, and she'll bounce back. She's a brilliant mare. We all know that. So, yeah, she's certainly still the horse to beat. And, look, it's, you've got Kelsey Mav, you've got Gio Severini, who flew home from the back. So it's it's a good field, and what's around, what's going well's in that race. So it's going to be a real good test. And we've got to remember our bloke hasn't had a race for, jolly now a year. So he's going to take a bit of racing to get somewhere at that top level of Group 1 racing. He's going to take a bit of racing to get fit and get up to their level and sharpness. It's like any sportsman. I think a little bit of racing and a little bit of game time sort of brings you right up to that level. So we're hoping that he's somewhere near it next Saturday, but we obviously know that there's going to be a fair bit of improvement there, and in just his sharpness and his gallop and moving on. So look, it's going to be no walk in the park for sure.
We had a little chat prior to recording this, and it's a pretty quiet week for the team at Wexford Stables, but you did have a horse for us to look out for in the next week or so.
Yeah, too right, Emily. Friday week, we've got one of David and Diane Archer's kicking off. It's called Dark Destroyer down at Taupo. And he's a promising horse we think is going to work through the 3-year-old races, possibly around Christmas and beyond. And he's going to be a really nice staying horse. So, and David and Diane have an incredible amount of luck. They've always got a nice horse around them. So we're hoping this one's the next one. And he's kicking off down at Taupo in his first start. And he's trialled around Taupo. He's familiar with it, and he'll certainly quicken on. So he's certainly a horse to have $1 each way on next Friday and follow him throughout the season. So hopefully he's David and Diane's next good one.
Awesome stuff. Thanks so much, Andrew, for your time, and stay tuned here on The Form, because on the back of this we catch up with Andrew Forsman. Andrew Forsman joins us on The Form this morning. A couple of really exciting horses in Australia, Andrew, and thought we'd start with Aegon, because he's going to line up in the Makybe Diva Stakes, and that's pretty exciting. How did he come through that last run?
Yeah, he's come through it really well, actually. We were a little bit undecided as to what the plans were post the Memsie, and it was all going to be determined by how he did handle it. Look, in a lot of ways, he's still quite immature and physically not quite there yet. But he seems to have really thrived, so he's happy where he is at the moment.
In previous times, you've successfully sort of kept those races really well spaced. Having the 2 weeks between runs, is that a concern for you, or you feel he's maybe that bit further forward he can handle that?
Yeah, we don't know. So we're hopeful as an older horse he can handle it, but I guess we won't really know until we line him up. And if he doesn't handle it and doesn't run up to his best, well, I think that answers our question. And by doing it this way, we have given ourselves time to freshen him for the Golden Eagle, if that's what we need to do.
If he ran as well as he did in that first run, the Memsie, and bounced through the Makybe Diva, how do you get to the Golden Eagle? What is the rough plan from here?
Yeah, if he does run well on Saturday, there's, I guess, the option of giving him another run between now and the Golden Eagle, possibly the Toorak. We might just keep him in Melbourne if he's doing well enough. But yeah, we'll just see. I mean, it all depends on how he races on Saturday and how he handles the week or so afterwards. You must have been absolutely rapt with that run in the Memsie, because, geez, he was one of the eye catchers out of it, wasn't he, with how he finished it off? Yeah, wrapped in, a bit frustrated too when you're watching a race and you thought you're a live chance going into it, but you know chance come to 700. He was just back in an awkward spot. They hadn't gone overly quick, so he was never going to be able to be in the finish and, be near those horses. But to see him hit the line like he did when he did get clear was very encouraging, and nice to see him measure up. The Chosen One took his spot in the Feehan Stakes, kicking off the campaign, and that was another super eye-catching run. Geez, if there was a run out of the race, it was most definitely his, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was because, again, not an overly strong tempo, and he was sort of wide and sort of out off the track most of the way. And the first two home covered no extra ground whatsoever. They had the soft runs in the race, and I thought his run was full of merit. He probably just peaked on it the last bit. He looked like he was going to perhaps pick them up, but just that work he had done sort of mid-race and covering that bit of extra ground probably just told late in the piece, being fresh up.
What do you do with him from here? He's quite slick, isn't he, over the mile, sort of early on in the campaign?
Yeah, he's always pretty good fresh, and then he does, obviously become quite dour, which is not a bad thing when you're preparing for a Melbourne Cup. So a little bit hard to know. The weight for age horses, he could go to an Underwood, perhaps. That's what we're probably toying with. It's a fine line between sort of running him in a handicap where he carries plenty of weight, or running him at weight for age where he may now, with that run under his belt, not quite be as sharp as some of the others he's up against. So that's something we just have to work out in the next week or so. But we know that as long as we get the runs on the board and have them as right as we can when the cups come around, that'll be the main target.
Logistically, how's it working? Because obviously there's restrictions here, restrictions there. How is it training a horse more remotely probably than you ever have before?
Yeah, it's certainly not easy, or as you would like it, but it is what it is, really, and we're not the only people in the same situation, so it's just something you have to adapt, and we're lucky we've got a good man on the ground over there looking after the horses, and Sam McLeod. He's done a great job so far. Alicia is still trying to get over. It's just very hard to get a flight even into the country at the moment, let alone get over there and do your quarantine or whatever it might be at this stage. So we're just... Obviously, things are very fluid with alert levels changing from week to week at the moment, and we're hopeful that Alicia can get over there soon enough to join the team.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get into this afternoon's runners at Taupo. You've got plenty in. No doubt it's going to be all hands on deck. We'll run through them in racebook order, and maybe you can just give us a comment on each. You've got Casper and Thora's Joy in the first of the day.
Yeah, they've both been, improving as they've raced. They haven't set the world on fire yet, but I think it's a perfect race for both of them, really, to put their hand up. Casper's got the blinkers on. They both galloped really well together on Monday morning, so it's a race that we've sort of been keeping in the back of our mind for them for a while. I think the 1800's perfect. A little bit of given the ground will be ideal. They'll both get their chance anyway to prove that they, obviously can win a race and be progressive.
Samarkand back for a second preparation in the second?
Yeah, he's a big rangy horse. He showed enough, as in a couple of good races as a 2-year-old. He raced in relatively strong company, and I think back into a maiden, not easy as a 3-year-old, but no, he's working well enough and ran a good trial at Cambridge, and he should be pretty competitive.
You've got the lightly raced Tiger Fire in the third. One start for a spell, and bred by American Pharaoh.
Yeah, he's a really nice colt. We've got a bit of time for him. I think you probably see the best of him perhaps over a mile and even further. But no, he trialled really well. He'll wear the blinkers, which he didn't have as a 2-year-old. I think probably when he raced as a 2-year-old, it was all just a little bit too much for him, and he just didn't get into the race. And I would forgive that run and go more on his trial at Cambridge, and expecting a bold run from him.
A Portofino 2-start spelled, and this one for Cambridge Stud.
Yeah, she actually trialled quite nicely and worked well last preparation. She was probably very disappointing when she actually did get to the races. We were probably left scratching our heads. We thought she would win a maiden pretty quickly. So she's had a quiet trial at Cambridge. She'll probably be an improver for the run, but she's drawn nicely. I think 1200 fresh up's ideal. So definitely on ability, she's a chance. May just improve a bit with the run.
Race number 7, Crushing, is on debut. What can we expect from this one?
He's a nice horse. He can gallop. He's still just quite immature. So we'll just give him this run perhaps and then see what he does. If he's not quite up to them race day yet, we'll probably turn him out, and he might be one to sort of mature and show his hand later in the year.
You've not only got Aegon in the Maccabi Diva on Saturday, but also a couple of nice horses resuming here on home shores. Tell me about Moroni and Frontman having their first start back.
Yeah, I think they're both working up really well. Again, probably just lacking an extra trial just with, COVID and alert levels and not being able to do what we needed to do in the last few weeks with these 2 older horses now. So they may be a touch vulnerable fitness-wise, but both working really well, and they're classy at best, and wouldn't surprise to see either go very well.
Awesome stuff, Andrew. Thanks for your insight, and best of luck with your runners this afternoon, and of course heading towards Saturday as well.
No worries. Thanks a lot.
done and dusted, let's wrap up the show with our best bets. Brendan Popplewell goes race 3, number 3, to Toki at Taupo. You've got Pip Morris with race 7, number 2, Big Time Quinn. Well, that's it from us here on The Form. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show and noted down those best bets. We'll be back tomorrow with more racing action.